Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness marks the 28th film in the MCU, and for the most part, every one of these 28 films is filled to the brim with amazing moments. And so today I thought it would be fun to give the best moment from every MCU film. This idea originally started from giving the top 10 best moments of the entire franchise. That would be kind of difficult to narrow down, so I just did the best moment from every single MCU movie. I'm not including the Disney Plus shows on this list. I am also not including Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or any of the Netflix shows or anything like that. We're just sticking with the 28 mainline films. So let's hop into this. Alright, kicking us off, we have the original Iron Man film from 2008, and it was very hard for me to pick my favorite moment from this movie, but I ended up going ahead and settling on the Mark III suit-up scene. The first time we see Iron Man in all his true glory with those red and gold colors. That suit-up is great. We see Ramin Djawadi's fantastic score. I also think that's the greatest CGI of the entire franchise. It looks so good when he first puts that suit on, and just the hype that I have felt every time I've watched that movie since 2008 when that suit goes on. It cannot be beat. Moving on to the Incredible Hulk a couple months later. This was also kind of hard because I actually really do enjoy the Incredible Hulk and there are quite a few moments I like, but I had to give the trophy here to this moment when he jumps out of the airplane and lands in Harlem and he hulks out and we get the greatest Hulk roar that we have ever seen on screen. It is a great way to start off the battle. It's also a great way to culminate the entire movie, and sometimes I go online and I look up just that specific sequence. I think I probably don't have it anymore, but I had a screen recording on my phone just of him landing and roaring in abomination because it brings me so much joy. 2 years later, Iron Man 2 released, and while the movie's not great, I do think it has one of my favorite action sequences in the entire franchise. So I gave the best moment in this movie to the scene when Iron Man and War Machine are just throwing down with all those hammer drones, and you just see them wrecking them. And the sound of War Machine's guns alone are enough to propel this to the best moment in that film. But it's like a 45-second fight of them just wrecking these drones, and I have the biggest smile on my face every time. It almost makes me forgive every other mistake the movie made. Right, moving on to Thor, this one, without question, had to go to the scene when he gets his powers back in the third act of the film. It's such an epic moment. It pays off Thor's entire arc up to that point in the movie after he gives that speech to Loki saying to sacrifice him instead of hurting all the innocent people. That just hits me right in the heart every time.
Brother, whatever I have done to wrong you, whatever I have done to lead you to do this, I am truly sorry. But these people are innocent. Taking their lives will gain you nothing. So take mine and end this.
And of course, Odin's words being said once again as Mjolnir lifts up out of the rock and flies to Thor just for him to catch it. And that amazing score, Thor Kills the Destroyer, that song just blasts through the speakers as the Destroyer and Loki realize they aren't winning this fight. It's a great moment. It's one of my favorite moments in the MCU, and it's funny. It gets my dad so hyped up that anytime I'm watching Thor, he makes me pause it and wait for him so he can watch that scene. So, great scene. Everyone loves it. Right, next up we have Captain America, the First Avenger. This is a movie that I really like, but I couldn't think of one particular standout moment except for the ending. I think the ending of this movie, it's one of the best endings in a Marvel movie, surpassed probably only by like maybe Endgame or the first Thor. I love the ending of that movie too, but the ending of Captain America, the First Avenger is great when he wakes up in 2012 and he's running around and he sees all this futuristic stuff in his mind, even though for us it's very modern and he has no clue what's going on. And then you see Nick Fury come out and he gives us that heartbreaking line at the very end of the movie.
I had a date.
It's a perfect ending to that Captain America story. It's such a memorable ending, and it is by far, when I think of that movie, the ending is what comes to mind. Closing out Phase 1, we have the Avengers, and no debate about it. The best moment in this movie is the famous circle shot. And by circle shot, I really mean the Assemble sequence, because it's more than just the circle shot. It's when Hulk comes out and we see the greatest feat of strength. I miss this Hulk, when he punches a Leviathan and stops it dead in its tracks. And then he roars, and his roar initiates battle, and all the Avengers assemble. I love it so much. I didn't think it would ever be beat until Avengers Endgame came along with the Avengers Assemble scene, but it is such a great moment. That's another scene. I will throw that up on YouTube and just watch it on loop over and over until until the music gets stuck in my head. I don't know. But that moment will always be iconic. It's my favorite moment of this movie. It's one of my favorite moments of the MCU. Now, kicking it off with Phase 2, we have Iron Man 3. Now, there's actually a lot to like in Iron Man 3. I've thoroughly enjoyed this movie ever since it first came out. And I was torn between that final fight, or the Malibu attack, or even the start when he's trying the Mark 42 on. There's so much to love with that movie, but the moment I gave it to was the Air Force One sequence. Now, I know it's a little more than a moment. It's sort of a sequence, but who cares? I love it. It's such an exciting moment when you see Iron Man fly out of Air Force One and all 13 people are falling, and he gets to catch every single one of them. I think the fact that it was also done practically helps sell just how cool that is, and that triumphant music at the end as Iron Man catches everyone. There's a reason that and the Malibu attack were the centerpiece of marketing for this movie, because it's a damn good sequence. Also, sorry if I sound a bit stuffy. It's the middle of May right now, and I get really bad spring allergies, so kind of stuffed up. Moving on to Thor the Dark World. I actually had some trouble with this one. Even though Thor the Dark World isn't that great of a movie, there are like 3 or 4 scenes in here that I absolutely adore. Frigga's funeral is great. The opening of the movie is great. But my favorite moment from this entire movie is the scene when Thor, Loki, and Jane first get to the Dark World, and Jane is sleeping, and Thor and Loki just have this heart-to-heart. It's so perfect.
This day, the next, 100 years, it's nothing. It's a heartbeat. You'll never be ready.
That scene alone, that like 2-minute scene, makes it worth the rest of the kind of mess of a movie that you watch. But I cannot get over how well written those 2 minutes are. It feels like they belong in a better movie. Next up, Captain America, the Winter Soldier. Talk about a hard one. The elevator fight, the highway fight, the ending fight with Bucky. This movie is fantastic from start to finish, but I had to give it to the highway fight. It's the greatest one-on-one fight. It's the greatest fight sequence across the entire MCU. Bucky and Cap are just pulling out some insane moves. The choreography is great. The way it's filmed is great. Even though I'm not too happy with how the action is generally filmed in that movie, it looks so great in this highway scene. The whole fight's so raw, so brutal, and it has the emotional weight at the end that just seals it as the best moment in this movie. And that brings us to Guardians of the Galaxy. And I had to go with this part.
You said it yourself, bitch. We're the Guardians of the Galaxy.
James Gunn might be the only filmmaker alive who can go from the death of a tree that makes us all cry straight into a dance battle to save the universe, and then end it with the main character almost getting disintegrated and then roasting the main villain with the cheesiest line of the movie and then obliterating him. I don't think anyone besides James Gunn can do it. He is one of a kind, and I love it. The moment Peter Quill grabs the Power Stone, I get chills. When we see him ashing away and he sees his mom and Gamora, Drax, and Rocket all join in and they team up. It is truly the best moment of an already fantastic movie. the emotional payoff of the movie all resides in that moment. It, of course, is just a fun and unique way of defeating the main villain, and it really pays off the little thread they had set up with the MacGuffin that no one can hold it, and we finally see them hold it. It's a great payoff in every single way. It's a great way to end the movie. And that brings us to Avengers Age of Ultron. And this is the first one on this list where my favorite moment is actually very early in the film. I had to give it to Ultron's first scene because I feel like his first scene encapsulates all the potential that Age of Ultron had, and it's the most exciting scene of that movie when they're all partying, lifting Thor's hammer, and then you just hear that just ear-piercing sound before Ultron comes out and he's broken and he's leaking. And he just sounds so threatening, and James Spader's voice is perfect for that character. And even though he is all broken and defeated, he still commands the Avengers' attention. He commands their respect, and he manages to kick their asses and destroy their base in that first fight, all while being stuck in a broken robot body. It's amazing. I wish the rest of the movie was like that, and it's when I think of Age of Ultron's best scenes, that's the one that comes to mind. In closing out Phase 2, we have Ant-Man. So many fun scenes in Ant-Man I had trouble picking, but for me it came down to the quantum realm escape at the very tail end of the movie, because I feel like this has so much emotional payoff and story payoff from the rest of the movie, where we're always hearing about the dangers of the quantum realm, and we finally see Scott have to make that ultimate sacrifice. And what really sells it is that while he's traveling down into this realm of just vast nothingness, we hear all those lines echo of the dangers of it, and we see Cassie yelling for her dad, and that's what motivates Scott to break back out of the quantum realm. It's a great moment in a fun movie. Ant-Man's not the best movie, it's just very fun, but that quantum realm scene is so much better than everything else in the movie. Coming into Phase 3, we have Captain America Civil War, and even though the final fight in this movie is one of my favorite final fights in the MCU just for its emotional payoff as well as just how cool the fight is, I had to give it to the airport battle. There's no way to not give it to the airport battle, because the airport battle is every little kid's dream. It's every comic book fan's dream to see all these heroes come together. It's the equivalent of when you went to your like toy bin or whatever, you grabbed every action figure you had and you had them all fighting. That's what the airport battle is. It's such a fun fight, and every hero gets a moment to shine. It's, of course, the first time we see Spider-Man. We get more Black Panther, the Giant Man reveal. Wanda and Vision get to do some of the coolest stuff we had seen them do in the entire franchise. And the fight is 18 minutes long, so it's not really a moment, once again, but it's like 18 minutes long. And it is so fast-paced and so well done that you do not get bored of this massive battle sequence. Moving on to Doctor Strange. A lot of great moments in Doctor Strange, and I was torn between two. I really wanted to do Dormammu, I've come to bargain, but at the end of the day, I had to go with the Ancient One's death scene. I think this moment is what makes this film great, of just that talk right before death of the mentor to the student, and Doctor Strange learns his most valuable lesson right then, that it's not about him. The visuals in that scene also help sell it. When you see a lightning strike, something that should happen in less than a second, and throughout the entire sequence, it never even makes it all the way to the bottom. That's how slow they're moving, and you see the snow just kind of at a dead stop, at a standstill. It's such a beautiful moment, and the dialogue in that scene, Tilda Swinton and Benedict Cumberbatch absolutely kill it. And regardless of what you think of what they did to the Ancient One in this movie, it doesn't take away from how beautiful this scene is. I actually did one of my final projects in my fall semester at my film school was to recreate a scene from any movie in the style I would do it, and I did the Ancient One's death scene. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is another one I had so much trouble narrowing down, but I had to go with the prison break that Yondu, Rocket, and Groot conduct, because it's such a fun scene. It's so exciting to watch, just the Yaka arrow flying around, and Groot being all scared while they're in the prison and then being all tough the moment they break out. And Rocket and Yondu just having the time of their life as they murder a massive amount of people, all with that great song to cap it off. And while there's so many other great moments like I'm Mary Poppins, y'all, or Yondu's funeral, or even the Ego plot twist that just, I mean, every time I see it, it's like I've never seen it before. James Gunn did so well with that. It's the prison break that I think is the most memorable scene of the film. Spider-Man Homecoming, without a shadow of a doubt, it wasn't even a competition. It had to go to the Vulture reveal right before the third act of the movie, when Peter Parker finally is getting something he wants. He has the girl he wants. And right as he knocks on the door, the gasps of the entire theater when Michael Keaton opened that door, and the tension that followed. No music, just Spider-Man and Vulture in the same room. It's fantastic. It's friggin' fantastic is what it is. And John Watts is great at this. He is great at those awesome moments of tension. Moving on to Thor Ragnarok. I had a lot of trouble with Thor Ragnarok because I love so much of Thor Ragnarok. It's such a fun movie. And as much as I wanted to do the scene at the end on the Rainbow Bridge with Thor unleashing his true power, I couldn't. Because thinking back on the film, the scene that gets me the most excited every single time I watch the movie is Thor versus Hulk. It's a great fight scene. The way Hulk comes out, that line Chris Hemsworth said that one Make-A-Wish guy said he should say. It's such a well done build-up that they were building up for like so long in the movie, and then they build it up, and the fight is so fun to watch. Sure, it ends in a BS way, but what other way would that fight have ended in? It's the perfect way to end that fight. It had to go that way. It's a great fight scene, one of my favorite fight scenes in a great movie. Cannot wait for Love and Thunder. Actually a theory video on Thor Love and Thunder should be coming out pretty soon. And that brings us to Black Panther. I never know what my favorite moment in Black Panther is because it's such a well-constructed movie from beginning to end, but the scene that sticks with me the most from this movie is Killmonger's death at the end of the film. When T'Challa carries him up so he can see the Wakandan sunset, the thing he was promised but never got to see because of mistakes of the past that T'Challa and Killmonger are now paying for. And that great line he has as he pulls that knife out.
Just bury me in the ocean with my ancestors that jumped from the ships, because they knew death was better than bondage.
Ryan Coogler mixed story, theme, and tone so well in this movie to craft an absolute masterclass of a film. And while I don't think it's one of the best MCU films, it might just be the best constructed film. Except the CGI, it's shit. And that brings us to Avengers Infinity War, a scene I had a lot of trouble trying to figure out what the best moment is. The best moment in Avengers Infinity War is in the Battle of Wakanda, when the heroes are about to lose. Cap, Black Panther, they're all being taken down, overrun by these Outriders. And you see the Bifrost come down, and Stormbreaker comes out with Thor, Rocket, and Groot in that portal. And they come down, and Thor rallies everyone into battle in the best way possible. Without a shadow of a doubt, it's the most memorable moment from a movie full of memorable moments. Thor, at what we have seen up to this point as his most powerful, coming to take down Thanos. Ant-Man and the Wasp was a tough one for me because I don't really like this movie. I think it's one of the worst MCU movies, just above the next movie. But there's one scene that I actually do really enjoy and I think is great, and that's the scene when Scott is in school and he's stuck little and he's trying to like evade that one teacher, and little kids have massive heads, but Scott's all proportionate, so he seems like this weird size, and Wasp is mocking him. I think it's a great scene. It's such a fun scene, and I very much enjoy that scene in a movie that I think is otherwise very forgettable and not exciting. Captain Marvel, on the other hand, was even tougher, because this movie is horrible, and I have so much trouble thinking of a scene I actually like. So I went ahead and I said that Talos reuniting with his family is my favorite scene, just because the emotional payoff of the character of Talos, he's the only character in that movie that I think is cool, and so to see him finally get that payoff to his arc and that storyline and him getting to reunite with all these Skrulls is cool. It's just a shame that a few minutes later, the movie turns back into the pile of shit that it is. But now back to some good movies. We have Avengers Endgame. So many good moments in Endgame, and as much as I wanted to give it to Captain America lifting Mjolnir, I had to give it to Avengers Assemble, because this is everything. This is the climax of 11 years of storytelling. Every character coming through the portal, including Pepper Potts. Thor all happy again with Stormbreaker. Knowing this is the last time you're going to see a battle of this scale, and Thanos having nothing to do but just watch as they all come in. And it ends with that shot of all of the Avengers preparing for battle. You see Spidey put his mask on. The Wakandans are doing their chant. Everyone is there. And Cap catches Mjolnir and says, "Avengers!
Assemble."
No matter how many times I watch Avengers Endgame, I will always get so much joy out of this moment in a way that I don't think any other scene in any of these movies has ever or will ever give me. And now back to bad movies, because the good couldn't last, could it? We have Spider-Man Far From Home, a movie I don't like that much, but actually does have some good stuff in it. And I had to give it to Peter Tingle Unlocked, as I call it, the final showdown with Mysterio. Now, while visually the first confrontation with Mysterio is much better, the payoff of this scene is what takes it. Because Spider-Man is struggling with Spidey sense, or Peter Tingle, as they call it in this movie, and to finally see him use it to defeat Mysterio is so exciting. And there's a cool tidbit. If you watch the scene, he closes his eyes, he starts running, and he doesn't open his eyes until the illusion breaks. His eyes are shut the entire time the illusion is up. It's a great moment in an otherwise not good film. And that wraps up the very long and very exciting Phase 3 of the MCU, bringing us into Phase 4. We have 5 more movies to talk about, and it all starts with Black Widow. Black Widow is a weird one, because Black Widow's not that great of a movie, but for some reason it's always one I find myself constantly wanting to rewatch. I don't think it has any amazing standout moments, but it does have several good moments. But the one I really like watching, it's a very short scene, it's about 50 seconds long, is when Red Guardian sings American Pie to Yelena, because it's this great payoff to American Pie that was plugged early on in the movie. It's also just a great bonding moment between two characters that I actually enjoy, and just the charm of both David Harbour and Florence Pugh sells the scene. After that scene, the movie does go off the rails, but for that scene when Yelena's mad at Red Guardian and he sings her favorite song from when she was a child to her, warms my damn heart. And with that, we move on to Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. And no doubt about it, the best scene from this film is the final fight between Shang-Chi and Wen Wu. Not only is the choreography in that fight amazing, this part in particular, the story and the build-up for this fight is even better. It's the fateful meeting of father and son. He wants his wife back, and Shang-Chi knows he's not going to get her. And the only way to stop massive evil from happening is to fight him, and they throw down, and Shang-Chi finally gets the 10 rings. Now, if the trailer hadn't spoiled that Shang-Chi was gonna win these rings over at the end of the fight, would have been even cooler, but the marketing showed him using the rings. Pretty much all his cool moves with the rings were in the trailer. It's a bummer. And that brings us to Eternals, a movie I don't like that much, but it does have one scene in particular I thoroughly enjoy, and that's the scene when Icarus turns to the dark side. The scene when Richard Madden just gets to show off why he's a good actor. When Icarus comes in and he tells him, he's like, I'm not fighting the Celestial, I'm going to fight you guys, we got to save the Celestial. And he's crying while he's doing it because he believes in his duty. He knows this is his purpose, and even though he doesn't want to fight his family and fight the woman that he loves, he knows he's going to have to. And on a side note, that's why Icarus is the most complex character in the movie. He is, I will say, he's pretty cool. Our last two movies, the multiverse movies, we have Spider-Man, No Way Home. It is unbelievably difficult to pick a standout moment from No Way Home because this movie is so damn good. Is it the fight in Happy's apartment? Is it when all the Spider-Men swing? Is it when Andrew and Tobey come through the portal? Is it the very ending of the movie? Is it the swing at the very end of the movie? I don't know, but I'll tell you right now, my honorable mention is the swing at the end of the movie. But as for what the actual best moment of the movie is, I had to give it to the Spider-Men all swinging around the Statue of Liberty. It almost went to the apartment fight, but the Spider-Man swinging and the Spider-Verse coming together takes the cake just because of the nostalgia boost it gives and how exciting it is for everyone who watched Tobey and Andrew's movies growing up to see all three Spider-Men come together. And that brings us to our most recent entry in the franchise with Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And I knew immediately that what was going to win was going to be Doctor Strange possessing the body of Defender Strange and defeating all those demons to go fight Wanda. It's so Sam Raimi, and how do you even top that finale? How do you top your character possessing the dead version of his alternate self in the main universe to defeat an evil witch and destroy the Book of the Damned? Like, you can't top that. It's such a cool finale, and it's great. And just the plant with Defender Strange early in the movie. I remember when I watched it again, I was like, it's so cool that they just planted him, and they're like, yeah, Doctor Strange is going to be using this later. It's a shame Defender Strange fighting the demons was in the trailer, but it is what it is. Well, there you guys have it. That is my favorite moment from every MCU film. Do you agree with my list? What are some changes you would make? Did I offend anyone? Let me know down in the comments below. Also, leave a like on this video, subscribe, click on the bell icon to receive all notifications from the MCU HQ. That's going to be it. Have a great day, guys.